Hey guys, and welcome to Film Artsy, your #1 source for all things films, movies, and Marvel. My name is Elijah, and it is Marvel Month, the month where we cover everything MCU and the Avengers. And with Avengers Endgame just around the corner, getting closer and closer with each day, we decided that it would be a great idea to take a look back over the years of the MCU. It's crazy to think that this whole thing started just 11 years ago, and some of the great characters and actors that we know and love from the MCU have really had some sort of evolution in their own side from where they were 11 years ago or 10 years ago when they started acting in these movies to where they are now. So today we're going to do a little retrospective on the then and now of some of our favorite characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now for this video, we're going to focus a little bit more on the characters who have been around for a longer amount of time, as some of these characters are going to be leaving the MCU as a whole, or just in general, some of these characters have just been around for such a long time that we really appreciate the hard work that they've put into it. That being said, let's go ahead and jump into this video.
Agent Romanoff, you missed me?
Oh yeah, Charles, we got ourselves an X-Men fan.
Captain.
Your Highness.
Captain, big fan, Spider-Man. Hey everyone.
First up, we wanted to take a look at Scarlett Johansson, who's been playing Black Widow since 2010 in Iron Man 2 and forward. It's kind of interesting because Black Widow was kind of this side character that wasn't super important in Iron Man 2, but definitely set the stage and played a huge introduction into this character who ended up being crucial throughout the entire timeline of the MCU, appearing in Captain America movies and in all the Avenger movies. It's been really cool to just see this character be in all of these movies and kind of be this character that can float between several different series outside of just the Avengers, which has been really unique. And Scarlett Johansson's come a long way from where she originally was in one of her early interviews from Iron Man 2.
Playing this character, the Black Widow has such a complex and long-standing and diverse origin story behind her. And she's beloved by so many fans that it really was a bit, it wasn't that it was daunting, but it was always in the back of my mind that this was going to be my interpretation of the character, and hoping that the fans were inspired by that.
It's kind of a fun clip just to look back at, mostly because she's never really played in a role to the extent of what Black Widow was in Iron Man 2, and it was cool that it was a new venture for Scarlett Johansson as an actress, and she really did a good job at developing the character into what this character is today, who is a staple member of Avengers. And with Endgame coming out, the excitement's real, and you can definitely see contrast to what it was like in 2010 to what it's like now in 2019. Next up, we're going to take a look at CHEADLE, who's been playing War Machine also since 2010's Iron Man 2. What's interesting about him is that he kind of came in as a replacement character, because originally Terrence Howard was set to play as War Machine in the sequel, but because of a bunch of shifts in how they wanted to finance the movie and how certain actors would be paid, he kind of backed out of the movie as a whole. So CHEADLE stepped up, and in the early interviews that you're going to see in a minute, you can see that he's kind of new to this whole idea of a connected universe and didn't really know much about what was going on.
Well, I wasn't really intimately aware of the Marvel Universe prior to this movie. I read Spider-Man before, and I knew those comics, but I didn't know anything about Iron Man. I mean, when I first saw Iron Man, I thought it was a robot. I didn't know there was a person in there. So it was kind of great to get the experience on this film of being introduced to this whole world with the Avengers and what's next.
Yeah, it's a fun clip. But now in 2019, while he's never really been like a major character, he's really been kind of that staple and foil to Tony Stark as a whole, just kind of a loyal character that he can kind of count on through and through, and that's been really cool to see. And he's been doing more and more things on his own outside of relying on just Tony Stark, which has been appreciated, especially since he was introduced way back in 2010 and then didn't even make an appearance in Avengers, which was kind of interesting. But he's around now, and that's what's really important. And nowadays, while he was at first kind of new to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole, he kind of is a little bit more cocky, but in a fun way, about his role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and he definitely understands the legacy and impact that the MCU has created, and that's really cool because the MCU is really great. Next up, we have another recasted character, looking at Mark Ruffalo, who plays Bruce Banner, and he actually joined the MCU later on in 2012 with the first Avengers movie. Originally, Edward Norton played the Hulk in 2008's The Incredible Hulk, which I guess he was set up to maybe appear in the first Avengers movie, but because of the way that movie was filmed and how it didn't do too well, he ended up dropping from the next movie for the Avengers movie, and Mark Ruffalo was picked up. And it's really cool listening to early interviews because he wasn't even too sure how he could take on a role in the superhero genre, which still was kind of a blossoming thing in film as a whole, and he does a really great job at playing Bruce Banner, and he really seems like he understood from day one who this character was and how this character should be portrayed on camera. Better to maybe what Ed Norton maybe had thought before. And Mark Ruffalo, in our opinion, was a pretty good casting decision, and he's played a pretty consistent character through and through. But here's that early clip.
This isn't usually the type of movie that I've been in or been invited to do. And it was the one, character in other than Wolverine that I actually thought I could do well. And so I was a little scared because there was no script yet.
Nowadays, Mark Ruffalo definitely has a pretty fun time with these interviews and takes them pretty lighthearted, even though he took this role very seriously early on. Now that he's been around for such a long time, he's kind of established himself in the franchise, and just like Don Cheadle, he really does have a good time kind of acknowledging the fact that the MCU is this awesome thing, and that he's one of the founding Avengers in this franchise, and that's pretty unique. Next up, we have Chris Hemsworth, who was casted to play in Thor before the first Avengers movie, and even back then, he kind of talks about how this role is a evolution of a character in itself, and a story about father and son, and siblings to an extent too, and that's kind of been a staple theme in all of the Thor movies, and just hearing this early interview kind of plays true to both where Chris Hemsworth and the character Thor was way back then and where he is now.
Whether you're playing a god or a human or whatever, you make it real and relatable, and that was the smart thing about this story. It wasn't, it was, the backdrop was a film about gods, but it was about human beings at the core of it, and then the relationships, fathers and sons.
Nowadays, the Thor characters may be taking on a more lighthearted and comedic role, but he still has those moments that are rooted in this original concept for who Thor was way back pre-Avengers, and we still really appreciate that, and we appreciate the acknowledgement to that even in later interviews. Then we have, of course, Chris Evans, who has been our Captain America since Captain America, the first Avenger, way back in 2010. And taking on this role was a huge undertaking because he already was a pretty established actor, being in a lot of films before taking on Captain America, and he had to sign on for 6 movies, which is a huge deal if you're an actor because you just can't take a break if you want to, and he talks about that a little bit in this interview.
The people close to me treated me with kid gloves. You
Right.
know what I mean? I was so apprehensive about taking the job. When I finally accepted it, I had a lot of people in my life, throughout the filmmaking process. One of the standard questions was, "How you doing? You okay? You okay? You all right? You okay?" Like, just kind of, are you handling it? So there was a nice comfort zone that I had from my friends and family throughout this whole filmmaking process.
Still, he stayed true to that contract deal, doing his 3 Captain America movies and his 3 Avengers movie, plus he decided to tack on Avengers Endgame just because it made more sense, and we appreciate his legacy he's created, and he honestly seems to be appreciative to everything that has happened over the years from the Captain America and Avengers and Marvel Cinematic Universe as a whole. Then we have Robert Downey Jr., who's been around since day one in 2008 when the first Iron Man came out and this whole legacy began, and he took this character really seriously from the beginning. This interview we're going to show you is from 2007, a year before Iron Man even came out, and it shows how important it was that this movie did well. Now, Tony Stark, or Robert Downey Jr., has been a staple of the MCU as a whole. He's appeared in his 3 Iron Man movies, all of the Avenger movies. He's appeared in Captain America Civil War. He's made cameo appearances in The Incredible Hulk, and he had a major role in Spider-Man Homecoming as this foil character to Peter Parker, which was really unique but really well done. And overall, this character kind of defines what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been for the last 11 years, and while we hope he makes it through and gets to do more films, this might be the end in Avengers Endgame, and his attitude's definitely been through and through Robert Downey Jr., and in a way Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. are almost one and the same, and that's kind of cool too. Next up, we have Jeremy Renner, who we just wanted to mention kind of briefly because he did play a small role in the first Thor movie, even before Avengers released, and then he had a more large role in the first Avengers movie. But this interview is cool because he just kind of talks about the early stages of the MCU and how he's almost excited to see what they're even doing, and it's kind of a really cool take.
No, the Marvel guys are really smart, they're really cool. Got my buddy Jackman is writing the Avengers, but that's not for like years away. The only reason why this even came up because they're thinking about maybe a little cameo of Clive as Hawkeye in there. It's the only reason why I even talked to those guys about it. But they thought it was a pretty good idea. Not sure if they're even gonna put Clive into Thor at all.
Nowadays, Jeremy Renner has kind of been this staple character also in the MCU, kind of being a more background character that really got pushed to the forefront. And then when Infinity War happened and he wasn't there, it became a huge question, where's Hawkeye? And his return in Endgame is super excited and really anticipated, and we're looking forward to see kind of where his character comes back in. And then just for fun, we wanted to look at Tom Holland, who came in a really weird time where people never thought that Spider-Man would ever be in the MCU. And this interview's from the premiere of Civil War, where people didn't even really know who he was or what role he would have. And he's kind of awkward and still hasn't really gotten the attention because no one really knew who he was at this point either. And it's just a kind of fun interview to watch.
At first, it was pretty terrifying, but as you all probably know, Marvel they're a powerhouse, you know, and they have the best in the business in every aspect of the film. And I was always in such good hands, and working with Robert very closely and Chris, I was always in good company, you know, and they helped me through every step of the way, and really gave me good guidance on what I needed to do to do justice to the character.
Nowadays, he's huge in the MCU and definitely has a cult following in his own right, and that's pretty cool to see that he's succeeded that far. But that's it. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been awesome over the past 11 years, and we look forward to seeing what they do in the future. But first, we have Avengers Endgame, and it's going to get exciting, and we're really excited to see what happens. More importantly, we really appreciate these actors who have been a part of the MCU over the 11 years. If it wasn't for them and the dedication they put early on developing these characters, the MCU simply put wouldn't be as amazing as it is today. And they really developed a legacy for this generation that is something we've never seen in film before. Avengers Endgame is shaping up to be possibly the biggest film of the decade, and it might be rightfully earned. There's been so much work over the last decade put into these movies that makes this build-up so exciting, and we're excited to see how this next movie turns out. But that's it for today, guys. If you enjoy all things Marvel, be sure to subscribe and turn notifications on. Which actor do you appreciate the most from the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Let us know in the comments down below, and we'll see you all next time with a brand new video.
What's up, Dorito? Then, better late than never, Captain America, Chris Evans, crashes the interview. Hugs all around, but hey, where's Roxy?
I'm sorry.
Chris Evans.
You two are...
Hi.
You both are relevant.
This interview actually ended 2 minutes ago and we just refused to leave. Look at this guy.
He's gonna do some stunts.
Right?
He's my fella.
I just said that you're Susan's free pass.
Are you a baby?
Oh, wow.
Are you Avery? You're a pretty girl. Yes. Are you happy?
Hey guys, we hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did, make sure you guys hit the like button down below and subscribe for more Film Artsy. If you guys want to showcase your talent to the world, Film Artsy is the best place for you guys to do it. Please submit your videos to filmartsyofficial@gmail.com, or you guys can click the link in the description. We really want to see what kind of talent you guys can provide. So let us know, send us an email, and we'll check out your videos, and we'll see you all in the next video.
Talking?
I'm about to.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody. How you doing?
Hi.
See you guys.
Know anybody?